The vast chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with an intense, uneasy energy. The high-arched ceilings seemed to press down, amplifying the tension in the room. The walls, decorated with intricate patterns and strange alien symbols, were silent witnesses to the important decisions being made within. A group of powerful alien representatives from across the galaxy filled the space, their eyes focused on one figure in particular. Commander Lucas Grimes stood tall before the council, his weathered face betraying little emotion. Years of battles and endless nights in space had carved deep lines into his skin, yet his gaze was unwavering. His calm demeanor masked a storm brewing beneath the surface. He had seen the horrors of war, and this was no ordinary decision. The council members, who had met countless times to discuss the fate of the galaxy, now turned their full attention to the human commander. The weight of their eyes felt heavy, but Grimes did not flinch. He had been in situations like this before, but this one was different. This time, the galaxy's fate was at stake. The booming voice of Zarkath, the Thean representative, broke the silence. His massive form rose from his seat, his crimson scales gleaming under the bright lights of the chamber. "We await humanity's decision," he said, his deep voice echoing in the room. "Will you join us in this war against the Nari Dominion?" Grimes scanned the room with cold, steel-blue eyes. The faces of the other council members were a mixture of hope and skepticism. Some leaned forward, eager for his answer, while others whispered quietly among themselves. In the far corner, Grimes caught the gaze of an old ally, Commander Talas of the Asrian Confederation. The concern in Talas's 4 eyes was visible. He knew what was at stake, and he knew humanity's decision would affect everyone in the galaxy. The room grew quieter, the silence deafening. All eyes were on Grimes, waiting for his response. Commander Grimes took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before speaking. "Honored members of the council," Grimes began, his voice steady and resolute. "After careful consideration, I must inform you that humanity will not be joining this conflict." A shocked silence followed. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. Some of the council members stared in disbelief, their faces twisted in confusion and anger. Others exchanged hurried whispers, as if unsure of what they had just heard. The atmosphere shifted in an instant, from hopeful anticipation to confusion, then outrage. Zarkath's massive form towered over the room as he exploded in fury. "What do you mean?" he roared. "The Nari Dominion threatens us all. They will destroy everything in their path. How can you stand idle? How can you not fight?" Grimes remained silent for a moment, his gaze never leaving the Thean representative. He knew this was coming. He had expected it. The council had been eager for humanity's support, expecting them to join the war against the Nari Dominion. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now it was time to show them why that was a mistake. "I understand your concern, Zarkath," Grimes said calmly, his voice unwavering. "But humanity has made its decision. We will not join the fight, not directly. Our strength lies in other ways." A ripple of disbelief passed through the council. A few exchanged glances, while others began to mutter in frustration. The room felt charged with energy, like a storm was brewing. The decision that Grimes had just announced was more than just a refusal to join the war. It was a bold statement. It was a declaration that humanity would not be forced into a conflict that it did not believe in. And that was something the galaxy was not prepared for. Before anyone could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "Perhaps the humans have grown too comfortable in their isolation," said Cinderthon, the silo representative. His eyes narrowed with a sneer. "They have forgotten how to fight. It's no surprise they would refuse." Laughter rippled through the council chamber, but Grimes didn't flinch. He had expected this. He had anticipated that the council would mock humanity. It was nothing new. The aliens of the galaxy had always seen humanity as a lesser species, too young, too inexperienced to play a significant role in the grand galactic stage. But Grimes knew the truth. The humans had been quiet for a reason, and they had learned things that the galaxy had long forgotten. But now, It was time to show them. "Our decision stands," Grimes said firmly, his voice cutting through the laughter. "Humanity will continue to provide logistical support and medical aid, as we have done in recent conflicts. But we will not commit our forces to direct combat." The council members fell silent again, their faces hardening into expressions of anger and disbelief. The tension in the room was thick, but Grimes remained calm. He had made his choice, and he was not going to back down. The chamber erupted into chaos once again as voices rose in protest. But amidst the uproar, Commander Grimes stood tall, unmoving, a silent figure of resolve. His eyes, cold and determined, scanned the room as the council descended into turmoil. Humanity would not be joining this war, but they had made a far more powerful decision than anyone realized. The uproar in the council chamber grew louder, and for a moment, Commander Grimes thought he might be swallowed by the overwhelming noise. His hands gripped the edge of the podium before him, keeping him rooted to the spot. Around him, the voices of the representatives clashed in angry outbursts. Some demanded explanations, others simply shouted in disbelief. All around him, the once powerful unity of the Galactic Council was breaking apart. "You cannot be serious." Zarth's booming voice rang out, full of anger. "The galaxy is on the brink of annihilation, and humanity chooses to remain on the sidelines." Grimes did not respond immediately, waiting for the noise to die down. He knew this moment would come. He had anticipated the fury, the shock, the confusion. The galaxy had grown too comfortable, believing that humanity would always be the obedient ally, ready to fight at their beck and call. But that was a mistake they would soon learn. One of the smaller representatives, a diminutive being with long, delicate limbs and a soft voice, spoke up. "Humanity has always been unpredictable," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But this is beyond understanding. Why would you abandon us now, when our need is greatest?" Grimes turned his gaze to her, his eyes cool and collected. "Humanity has always been a force for peace," he replied, his voice unwavering. "We do not fight wars just to fight. There is more at stake here than simple alliances and battles. The Nari Dominion may be a threat, but we must consider the consequences of engaging in this war. Sometimes, the greatest strength is knowing when to stand aside." The council members were not satisfied with his words. Their faces, a mix of alien features and emotions, twisted in frustration and disbelief. A low murmur ran through the chamber as the representatives exchanged words, their voices dripping with distrust. "Humanity is a wild card." Cinderthon, the silo representative, sneered from the far end of the room. "A species that hides behind its so-called morality, while others bleed for survival. I never believed you had the courage to stand with us." Grimes' eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. He had expected Cinder's harsh words. There had always been animosity between the silo and humanity. Their species, known for their cold, calculating nature, viewed humanity as weak, sentimental. But it was that very sentimentality, that desire to protect and defend, that had driven humanity to such extraordinary lengths in the past. Despite the chaos, there was something in the air, a shift, a quiet realization starting to take root. Some of the representatives were no longer shouting. Some had stopped arguing entirely. It was subtle, but Grimes could see it in their eyes. Doubt. "You will regret this decision," Zarkath said, his massive form looming as he stood, his fists clenched. "The Nari will not wait for you to decide. They are relentless, and when they come for Earth, we will not be there to save you." Grimes met the Thean's gaze with steady eyes. "We don't need saving, Zarkath," he replied. "Humanity has survived worse. We will fight on our terms when we choose." The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment, causing more tension among the council members. Some were visibly unsettled by the calmness in Grimes' voice. They had expected desperation, fear, or perhaps anger. But Grimes wasn't afraid of what the future might hold. He had seen the horrors of war, the devastation it caused, the lives lost. But he had also seen humanity's strength in its ability to survive, rebuild, and rise again. Humanity did not need the Council's battles to prove its worth. It had proven itself time and time again. A low hum echoed through the room as a large screen flickered to life behind Grimes, displaying images of the Nari Dominion's relentless advance. The dark, jagged ships of the Nari fleet loomed like a shadow over the galaxy. The alien force, cruel and merciless, was closing in on systems that had once been peaceful. The screen shifted, showing the destruction the Nari had left in their wake. Planets turned to rubble, cities razed to the ground. Grimes knew that the Council was watching closely, waiting for him to flinch, waiting for him to reconsider. But Grimes didn't flinch. "These images," Grimes said, pointing to the screen, "are a result of desperation, not strategy. The Nari are not unbeatable. Humanity's methods are different. We won't wage a war of destruction. We'll find a way to end this that doesn't leave the galaxy in ruins." The Council fell silent again. The words that Grimes had spoken seemed to resonate, though the tension was far from gone. The representatives were torn. They wanted humanity's power, but they feared its unpredictable nature. Grimes could see the conflict in their eyes. They were not used to facing a species that would not simply bow to their will. "Then what will you do?" Zarkaf asked, his voice now quieter, though the anger still lingered beneath the surface. "We'll help in ways you don't yet understand," Grimes answered. "Our methods are unconventional, but they work. Humanity has always been good at finding creative solutions, and that is what we offer: innovation. We will not fight this war in the way you expect, but we will fight it on our terms." The Council members exchanged hesitant glances. It was clear they had no idea what humanity had planned, and that made them uneasy. Still, there was something in Grimes' words, something that caused a small seed of doubt to grow in their minds. Would humanity's methods really work? Could they find a way to defeat the Nari without becoming like them? The room was filled with uncertainty, but Grimes stood tall, his decision made. He had chosen his path, and there was no turning back now. The Council may have underestimated humanity, but it wouldn't be long before they realized just how wrong they were. The silence in the Council chamber stretched on, thick with the weight of unspoken words. Grimes could feel every eye on him, the pressure mounting with each passing second. There was no turning back now. His decision had been made, and the consequences, both immediate and far-reaching, were yet to unfold. As the screen behind him flickered once more, displaying images of the Nari's warships encroaching upon peaceful star systems, Grimes let out a slow breath. The images were powerful, but they were not the full picture. The galaxy's leaders were still missing one crucial detail: humanity's true strength, and they were about to learn that lesson the hard way. "Commander Grimes," came the voice of Commander Tallis, the Asrian representative, his four eyes locked on the human commander. "You've made your position clear, but we still don't understand. You claim humanity has methods of dealing with the Nari that don't involve direct conflict. What are these methods?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Grimes hesitated. He could feel the tension building again, as though the room itself was holding its breath. The answer he was about to give was one that no one would see coming. He knew that revealing humanity's true potential would make him the target of even more scrutiny. But it was time. "We don't need to fight the Nari in the way you think," Grimes said, his voice calm yet firm. "Humanity has resources, strategies, and knowledge that you've never seen before. Our strength doesn't lie in sheer firepower or brute force. It lies in our ingenuity, our ability to adapt and think outside the box." The representatives exchanged glances, their confusion only growing. Some of them shifted in their seats, visibly unsettled by the implications of Grimes' words. Zarth, the massive Thean, let out a low growl, his crimson scales shimmering as his anger built. "You speak of ingenuity, but the Nari will not care for your tricks, human," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "They will crush you just as they have crushed every other species who dared to stand in their way." Grimes did not flinch. "The Nari may be a threat, but they don't understand humanity," he replied. "They don't understand what we're capable of when we're pushed to the edge, and they're about to learn that lesson." The room fell into an uneasy silence again as the council members tried to process his words. Grimes knew that they were doubting him, but that was fine. He had expected it. Humanity was a wild card, a species that refused to fit neatly into the boxes that others had created for them. And that was exactly why they were so dangerous. "I have to admit," Commander Tallis said, his voice measured. "I'm curious, Commander Grimes. You speak of ingenuity and unconventional methods. But I wonder, what do you mean by that? What exactly do you have in mind?" Grimes' lips curled into the faintest of smiles. "You'll see soon enough," he said cryptically. "But I won't reveal our plans just yet. Some things are best left unseen until the right moment." The council seemed to grow more uneasy as Grimes' words hung in the air. There was a lingering sense of uncertainty now, a realization that humanity's decision might not have been as reckless as they had initially thought. Grimes had not given them any concrete details, but his confidence was palpable, and that confidence was unsettling. Before the chamber could erupt into another round of debates, an unexpected voice cut through the tension. "Commander Grimes," a soft voice said, its tone steady but calm. It was the representative from the Cloy Federation, a species known for their logical thinking and reserved nature. "I don't believe we've heard from you yet on something important." Grimes turned to the small figure at the far end of the room, his sharp blue eyes narrowing slightly. The Cloy's representative, known as Lyra, was known for her keen intellect. If she was speaking up now, it meant she had something significant to add. "Go ahead, Lyra," Grimes said, his voice calm. Lyra's expression remained neutral, but there was an unmistakable spark of curiosity in her eyes. "You've told us that humanity will not engage in direct combat," she said. "But there are systems, some of which are already under attack by the Nari. Are you suggesting that humanity will simply watch these attacks unfold without intervening?" The question was direct, and Grimes could sense the underlying tension in it. Humanity's reputation had always been that of a protector, a species that could be relied upon in times of crisis. To stand aside now was not only a political move, but also a moral one. And that was something the council had yet to understand. "We will not stand by and watch, Lyra," Grimes said, his voice steady. "We will act, but we will do so in a way that ensures the survival of the galaxy, not its destruction." A murmur ran through the chamber. Grimes could see the doubt slowly creeping into the faces of the representatives, but there was something else there too, a flicker of hope. For all their bravado and bluster, they knew they had seen something before. Humanity had a history of pulling off the impossible. And while they might not have agreed with Grimes' decision, they couldn't deny that there was something different about humanity. Zarth, still furious, growled low in his throat, but even he hesitated. "And what happens when the Nari come to Earth, Grimes?" he asked, his voice tinged with bitterness. "What happens then? Will you still stand by your decision?" Grimes met his gaze without hesitation. "When the Nari come to Earth, we will be ready, and we will show them just what humanity is capable of." The words were like a challenge, a declaration of war without a single shot fired. The council members shifted in their seats, some narrowing their eyes in suspicion, others in fear. Humanity was taking a risk, a huge one. But it was a risk that had the potential to change the course of the war. In that moment, Grimes realized that the council might never fully understand humanity's decision. But that was the beauty of it. The galaxy had underestimated humanity before, and soon they would learn the price of doing so again. The air in the council chamber was thick with uncertainty. Grimes could feel the weight of the gazes upon him, all eyes still locked on him with skepticism and curiosity. The representatives from all over the galaxy were no longer just questioning humanity's decision. They were starting to doubt their own assumptions. The seed of doubt had been planted, and now it was growing. Grimes stood tall, unwavering. His voice had calmed the chaos for a moment, but the storm was far from over. He knew that his next words would either strengthen their resolve or push them further away from humanity's side. And in this room, every word mattered. "You speak of unconventional methods, Commander Grimes," Zarth growled, his voice filled with a blend of confusion and disdain. "But you have yet to explain what those methods are. If you do not act quickly, you risk the entire galaxy falling to the Nari. What are you waiting for?" Grimes let out a slow, deliberate breath. He knew that the time for secrecy was coming to an end. The Council had pushed him to this point, and now it was time to reveal the truth. The truth about what humanity had been hiding for centuries. A truth that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. "We're not waiting," Grimes said calmly, his voice cutting through the tension. "We've been preparing. Humanity has something no one else has, a hidden arsenal, built in secret, buried beneath the surface of Earth. It's a weapon, not of destruction, but of survival. And we will use it when the time is right." The chamber fell silent. It was a silence filled with disbelief, shock, and curiosity. Grimes could see the faces of the representatives shift from skepticism to confusion. They had never heard of such a thing before. An arsenal beneath Earth's surface, a weapon no one knew about. The concept was foreign, even to the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. You expect us to believe that?" Cinderthon, the Silo representative, sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "A hidden arsenal. And just when did humanity plan to unveil this so-called weapon?" Grimes met his gaze, his eyes cold and unflinching. "We didn't plan to unveil it, Cinder," he replied. "The weapon is not for the Council, nor for the Nari. It is for humanity. For Earth, for the survival of our species." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others leaned forward, their eyes narrowing with interest. They had heard whispers of Earth's technological advances, rumors of hidden weapons, secret projects, but they had never imagined that humanity could be hiding something so powerful, so vital. "I believe I speak for all of us when I say that we find this hard to believe, Commander," Lyra from the Cloy Federation said carefully, her voice quiet but firm. "You're telling us that humanity has been sitting on a weapon capable of defending your planet from the Nari, and you chose to hide it until now." Grimes' lips curled into the faintest of smiles. "Humanity has always chosen caution over aggression," he said. "We've spent centuries building, researching, and preparing, not for war, but for a future where we are no longer at the mercy of other species. The Nari are only the latest threat, but they will not be the last." The room remained tense, the representatives exchanging whispers and glances, but Grimes could see that the seed of doubt had grown. Some of them were beginning to question their previous assumptions, beginning to wonder if perhaps they had underestimated humanity. Zarth was the first to break the silence. His massive form rose from his seat once more, his voice booming through the chamber. "If what you say is true, then perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgment," he growled. "But know this, Commander Grimes. If your hidden arsenal fails, if humanity cannot back up its words with actions, there will be no second chance. The Nari will crush you, and we will have to make a difficult choice. A choice to leave humanity to its fate." Grimes nodded slowly, acknowledging the Thean representative's words. He had no illusions about the stakes of this decision. The galaxy's leaders might be divided, but the Nari would show no mercy. If humanity was to survive, if Earth was to survive, they had no choice but to succeed. "I understand the gravity of this," Grimes said, his voice firm. "But we're not alone in this fight. The Nari may think they can crush us with sheer force, but they don't know what we've built. They don't know what's waiting for them." His words hung in the air, charged with a sense of inevitability. The council members knew that Grimes wasn't just talking about weapons. He was talking about humanity's greatest asset, its ingenuity, Earth's ability to think, adapt, and overcome impossible odds. The conversation shifted again as the council began to process the new information. The room buzzed with questions, speculations, and cautious hope. Humanity, once seen as a small and insignificant species, was revealing a side that no one had expected. "What kind of weapon are we talking about, Grimes?" Talus asked, his 4 eyes narrowing in focus. "We've heard of weapons that can obliterate entire fleets, weapons capable of wiping out planets. But you speak of something different. What is it?" Grimes paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. The time had come to reveal the true extent of humanity's preparations. He took a breath before speaking again, his voice resolute. "It's not a weapon of mass destruction," Grimes said. "It's a weapon of control. It's a device capable of manipulating entire star systems, disrupting the Nari's communications, and turning the tide of battle without firing a single shot. It's a technology unlike anything this galaxy has ever seen." The chamber fell silent once again, this time with a sense of awe. No one had ever heard of such a thing, a weapon that could control entire star systems without violence. It was a concept that defied everything they had learned about warfare, about power. Grimes' words hung in the air, their impact reverberating through the chamber. The council members were no longer just skeptical. They were intrigued, wary, and unsure of what to make of this new revelation. Humanity had always been underestimated, always seen as a species too young, too small, too insignificant to challenge the galactic order. But now, that perception was beginning to change. The Nari were coming, and humanity had just revealed that they were ready. The hum of anxious whispers filled the chamber as Commander Grimes' words hung in the air like a weight too heavy to bear. The council members exchanged looks, their expressions filled with skepticism, curiosity, and cautious hope. Never before had they witnessed humanity speak with such confidence, as if they held the key to a power that could change the fate of the galaxy. Zarth, his crimson scales gleaming under the bright lights, was the first to break the silence. His voice rumbled through the chamber, like the distant thunder before a storm. "You claim that humanity has such power at its disposal," he said, his tone laced with suspicion. "But how can we trust you? You speak of an unknown weapon, but how can we be certain it will work when the Nari arrive at your doorstep?" Grimes met the Thean representative's gaze with unflinching eyes, his jaw set in determination. "Trust isn't something you give lightly, Zarth. It's something you earn. But I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for understanding. The Nari may be powerful, but we have something they don't: the will to survive." He paused for a moment, letting the weight of his words settle in the room. The council members, each from different corners of the galaxy, had faced numerous threats and wars. But never before had a species spoken so plainly about their survival, about a weapon that could challenge the very fabric of the universe. It was unheard of, and that was exactly why they couldn't dismiss it. "You've seen the Nari's strength firsthand," Grimes continued, his voice steady and calm. "But what you don't know is that we've been fighting wars, not just against invaders, but against time itself. Humanity's greatest weapon has always been its resilience, its ability to adapt, to think outside the box when faced with overwhelming odds." He could see that his words were beginning to resonate. Zarth's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of doubt behind his imposing gaze. Cinderthon, the Silo representative, shifted in his seat, his sharp features betraying curiosity. Even the usually stoic Lyra of the Cloy Federation seemed momentarily intrigued. "If you're so confident in your weapon, why haven't you shared it with us sooner?" Cinderthon's voice dripped with skepticism. "You've kept it hidden all these years. What is it that you're not telling us?" Grimes knew the question was coming. It was inevitable. The secrecy surrounding humanity's weapon would always raise suspicion, but he had prepared for this moment, and he knew that explaining too much too soon could lead to even more questions. "The weapon was never meant for your use," Grimes said, his tone sharp. "It was built for the defense of Earth, and Earth alone. It's not a tool of power or conquest. It's a tool of survival. In a galaxy that is constantly at war, it's easy to forget that there are those who would rather find peace, even if it means standing alone." The council members were silent, contemplating his words. The room was filled with an unspoken tension, as if the very air was charged with anticipation. They had heard of weapons that could obliterate entire fleets, even entire planets, but they had never heard of a weapon that could manipulate the very fabric of space and time itself. Grimes could see the doubt in their eyes, the disbelief, but also the curiosity. They were beginning to wonder if perhaps humanity had something more than just a hidden weapon. Perhaps they had something the galaxy had never seen before, a power beyond physical strength. Talis, the Asrian commander, spoke up, his 4 eyes narrowed in deep thought. "You're saying that this weapon can alter the very course of a battle without a single shot being fired, that it can control star systems. Are we to believe that humanity has the technology to manipulate space itself?" Grimes nodded slowly, his expression serious. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. We've spent decades researching this technology, building it in secret, preparing for a time when the galaxy would need it. A time when brute force wouldn't be enough to protect the ones we love. A time when survival meant something more than just winning a fight." The room was still, the weight of his words pressing down on each representative. They had heard of many powerful technologies in their time, many that promised to shift the balance of power. But the idea of a weapon that could manipulate space itself, that could control the very stars and planets, was beyond anything they had ever imagined. "How can we be sure it will work?" Lyra asked, her voice quiet but filled with concern. "What if this weapon fails? What if your confidence is misplaced?" Grimes met her gaze, his eyes steely and unwavering. "That's a risk we're willing to take. Humanity has always known the cost of survival. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that when the stakes are high enough, we always find a way." A long silence stretched through the chamber. The representatives exchanged glances, their minds racing as they processed this new information. Could humanity really possess such power? Could they truly hold the key to turning the tide against the Nari, against all the forces that threatened the galaxy? Grimes knew they were beginning to understand. They were beginning to see that humanity wasn't just some insignificant species, too weak to stand on its own. They were beginning to realize that the humans standing before them had not only survived, but had built something so powerful that it could change everything. "I can't promise that this weapon will guarantee victory," Grimes said, his voice resolute. "But I can promise this: humanity will not go quietly. We will stand, we will fight, and we will do whatever it takes to protect our future." Zarth's eyes glinted with a mix of respect and wariness. "You have convinced us of your resolve, Commander Grimes," he said slowly. "But the Nari will not wait. They will come for Earth, and they will come for all of us. What will you do when they arrive?" Grimes took a deep breath, his gaze hardening. "We will be ready, and when the time comes, we will show the Nari what humanity is truly capable of." As he spoke, Grimes could feel the weight of the galaxy shifting. The Council had heard his words, and whether they believed them or not, one thing was certain: they were no longer underestimating humanity. And when the Nari came, they would find out just how wrong they were to doubt Earth's resolve. The Galactic Council chamber had fallen eerily silent, the air thick with the weight of the unknown. For the first time, the representatives of the various star systems found themselves at a crossroads, caught between disbelief and a reluctant respect for the human resolve. Commander Grimes had spoken with unwavering certainty, but the Council still had its doubts. Zarth's deep voice cut through the silence, his words almost a growl. "Your words are powerful, Commander, but the Nari are not like your usual enemies. They will not fall to threats alone." His sharp, calculated eyes watched Grimes, searching for any hint of uncertainty. But Grimes stood unmoved, his face an unbreakable mask. "I'm not threatening anyone, Zarth," Grimes replied, his voice calm but firm. "I'm offering a solution, a way forward. Humanity is prepared to face the Nari, not with the weapons they expect, but with something far more devastating." The Council members exchanged glances, murmurs spreading like wildfire. The idea of humanity holding a power that could rival the Nari was something none of them had ever imagined. How could a species that had only recently entered the galactic stage possess such a weapon? A weapon that could change the very course of the war. Cinderthon, the silo representative, scoffed. Your confidence is admirable, Commander, but your words are just that. Words. We've all seen empires fall because they believed their weapons could save them. And yet, they still crumbled. Grimes turned his gaze to Cinderthon, his expression cold. Perhaps the difference, Thon, is that humanity doesn't believe in just relying on weapons. We believe in strategy, adaptability, and unity. Things your people might have forgotten. At that, there was a noticeable shift in the atmosphere. A few of the council members looked taken aback, their eyes flicking between Grimes and each other. Talus, the Asrian commander, leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing in contemplation. Then tell us, Grimes, Talus said, his voice low and thoughtful. If you refuse to fight with us now, and if your weapon is as powerful as you claim, why hold back? Why wait for the Nari to come to your doorstep? Grimes' jaw tightened, his steel blue eyes locking with Talus's. Because this is not just about the Nari. This is about the galaxy itself. Humanity has fought wars that have destroyed entire worlds. We have seen what happens when power is misused. I will not unleash our weapon unless absolutely necessary. It's not a tool of conquest. It's a tool of survival. Lyra, the Cloy Federation representative, remained silent until now, her pale green skin giving her an almost ghostly appearance under the chamber lights. What do you mean by survival, Grimes? Her voice was quiet but laced with urgency. Are you telling us that humanity is prepared to stand alone against the Nari? Against every threat that might come after us? Grimes hesitated, his mind replaying the countless moments of struggle humanity had endured. Every war, every loss had led them here, to this moment of decision. He had seen entire civilizations fall before, seen planets reduced to ashes. He had no intention of allowing that fate to befall Earth. We are prepared to stand alone if we must, Grimes said, his voice steady. But we do not intend to face this alone. The galaxy doesn't need to fight the Nari with brute force alone. We have a choice to make, a choice between unity and survival. Together, we can stop them, but only if you're willing to take the first step. The silence that followed was profound, as the council members processed his words. For the first time, the idea of unity didn't seem like an impossibility. The galaxy's ancient divisions were stark and deep, but Grimes had made them question whether those divisions could still stand in the face of a greater enemy. Cinderthon's sneer faded into something resembling consideration. You speak of unity, Commander, but how do you propose we bring the galaxy together? The Nari are ruthless, relentless. Do you really think we can simply convince our people to trust you? Grimes didn't flinch. It's not about convincing them. It's about giving them a reason to believe that survival is possible. That working together is the only way to stop what's coming. If we stand united, the Nari won't stand a chance. He could feel the weight of his words sink in. The council members, once so divided, were beginning to see the truth in his words. They had been focused on their own survival, their own power struggles. But the Nari threat was bigger than any one species. It was a force that would consume them all if they didn't find a way to unite. A holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing a map of the galaxy. The Nari Dominion, a dark stain on the map, was slowly advancing, its reach growing with every passing moment. The council had always been fractured, each member focused on their own corner of the universe. But the Nari threat was something else entirely. It was not bound by borders. It was not contained by the size of any one empire. This, Grimes said, his voice rising, is what we're up against. This is the reason we cannot afford to stay divided. If we wait until the Nari are at our doorstep, it will be too late. Now is the time to act. The council members stared at the map, each lost in their thoughts. They had all known about the Nari, of course. The whispers of their cruelty had reached every corner of the galaxy, but it was one thing to hear about the Nari's wrath, and another to see the darkness spreading across the stars. Zarth broke the silence first, his voice low but filled with a reluctant respect. "You're right, Commander. We've been too focused on our own power struggles to see the true enemy. Perhaps it's time to put aside our differences." Cinderthon didn't speak immediately, but his sharp features softened slightly. "We'll need more than just words, Grimes. We'll need proof, something to show our people that you're not just bluffing." Grimes nodded. "I understand, and I'll give you that proof. When the Nari come, we will be ready. But we need you to stand with us, not as allies, but as equals. Only then can we hope to turn the tide." As the council continued to debate, Commander Grimes stood silently, his mind already racing with plans and contingencies. The Nari were coming, and every moment spent in the council chamber, every word exchange, brought them closer to a galaxy-wide war. But for the first time, it seemed there was hope that humanity's strength, ingenuity, and will to survive might be enough to unite the galaxy before it was too late. The final decision hung in the air like a storm ready to break. The council chamber, which had once been a place of heated debate and distrust, was now filled with an uneasy silence. Commander Grimes stood at the center, his mind focused on the future, the weight of the galaxy's survival resting heavily on his shoulders. Zarth, the Thean representative, was the first to speak after what felt like an eternity. His voice, once full of doubt and suspicion, now carried a tone of reluctant understanding. "You have shown us the path, Commander," he said, his crimson scales gleaming under the bright lights of the chamber. "Perhaps we have been too stubborn, too proud to see what's coming. The Nari threat is real, and if we don't act, it will be our undoing." Grimes nodded, his expression unwavering. The war was not over, but for the first time, the galaxy was on the verge of something greater than just survival. It was on the edge of unity. "We don't have time for pride," he said. "The Nari are relentless. They won't wait for us to make up our minds. We have to stand together or perish alone." The room was still, each representative deep in thought. The Cloy Federation, led by Lyra, exchanged a glance with her colleagues. She spoke slowly, her voice filled with both hesitation and resolve. "Humanity is right," she said. "We've been too focused on our own divisions. We thought we were strong enough to face threats on our own. But this is different. We have to fight together." Grimes felt a flicker of hope as he watched the Cloy's representatives nod in agreement. The seed of unity was taking root, and though it was fragile, it was beginning to grow. The Asrian Confederation's commander Talus was the next to speak, his 4 eyes focused on Grimes with a new understanding. "Humanity has proven itself capable of more than we ever realized," Talus said. "Your refusal to join us in war is not weakness, it is strength. You've forced us to confront our own weaknesses, and that is something we cannot ignore." He paused, then added, "We will stand with you." Cinderthon, the Silo representative, who had been the most vocal in his skepticism, now stood with a rare expression of respect. "I never thought I'd say this, but perhaps you're right. Perhaps the galaxy has more to learn from humanity than we've been willing to admit." Grimes's eyes moved from one representative to the next. The once divided council was slowly coming together, each voice now adding to the chorus of unity. It was clear that the Nari threat had forced them to see the truth. They couldn't fight alone. If they were to have any chance at survival, they would need each other. "It's not about what we've done," Grimes said, his voice firm yet hopeful. "It's about what we can do together. Humanity's strength lies not just in our technology, but in our ability to adapt, to learn, and to work together. If we can do that, then we can defeat the Nari." The holographic map of the galaxy flickered again, showing the ever-advancing Nari dominion. The dark stain of their territory seemed to grow larger with every passing moment. But now, it was not just humanity looking at the map. It was an alliance, a coalition of species, ready to face the storm that was coming. Zarth turned to the others, his voice filled with determination. "We've all seen the maps. We've seen the Nari closing in. But now we have a choice. We can continue as we have, each of us fighting alone. Or we can unite and face this threat together." One by one, the representatives nodded in agreement. Grimes felt the weight of their resolve settle over him. This was it, the turning point. The galaxy was no longer a fractured collection of empires and species, each fighting for its own survival. Now it was a united force, ready to face the darkness that threatened them all. The chamber doors slid open, and a group of military strategists entered, bringing with them a display of advanced human tactics and technology, solutions that would tip the balance in their favor. The time for talk was over. Now it was time for action. As the council members gathered around the new map, Grimes stood back for a moment, watching the beginning of something truly extraordinary. For the first time in history, the galaxy was united, not by fear, but by hope. Hope that together, they could overcome the Nari. Grimes knew the battle ahead would be long and grueling. But now, humanity was not standing alone. The galaxy was with them.